Welcome everybody to Conscious Conversations. Today is actually August 7th, 2011, and not the 14th according to some people's ideas of what the date is. But that's an inside joke here at Fitness for the Body, Mind, and Soul in Hendersonville. But I'm sure that wasn't by mistake either. But each week we're really blessed and grateful to have wonderful guests who participate in this conversation, and today is no exception because our guest, or my guest today on Conscious Conversations, is someone I've known for a number of years from Florida. Moved back up here to, she moved up here actually, what year, Shellie?
2005.
2005. We came up the next year. Beautiful part of the country for anyone listening, check it out. Western North Carolina, South Carolina area. And anyway, Shellie Enteen is a reverend in the Alliance of Divine Love Ministry, same ministry I'm ordained in, and you are actually ordained way before I was, because your number is what? What's your chapel number?
384.
384. See, so we're 840. I'm 834, and who else has a number in here? So what's your number, Ellen?
I think 846.
846. Connie?
1432.
Okay, 1432. And Nancy, what's your number?
1114.
1114. So the lower numbers determine, that means Shelley's been a minister a little longer than we have. So, but not only is she an Alliance of Divine Love minister, but a aromatherapist. We'll talk about that shortly. Also an astrologer. And her website is astralessence.com. Really lots of wonderful information. One more thing that Shellie is a poet and a writer. So you are very diverse in your philosophies and teachings, and welcome to the conversation today, Shellie.
Thank you for having me. It's a delight to be here. It's a delight to be here even if I'm not the guest speaker, I have to say. I hope you'll look at all the Conscious Conversations because they'll be great.
Well, thank you. Well, let's get to the conversation here. And first of all, as I mentioned, you have many interests and things that you teach and share. So I'd like to start with the astral essence. What exactly, how did that come to be and what is that?
How did it come to be? That's really good. That's a point. That who knows? Because, I mean, my life is just on a flow path of its own desire. I really, growing up as a little girl, never expected to be an astrologer. I believe that the first thing that came in was the astrology, actually, a very long time ago, late 70s. And back in New York City then, you were pretty strange if you were doing things like this. It doesn't seem so strange anymore, but boy, was it strange then. And from there, I mean, I could see health in people's charts, so I was wondering what could I do to help if I'm telling a client things that are going on with them. And so first I was led to Bach flower remedies, and then I decided to do hands-on, so I went to massage school, and that's why I was able to meet Carol and many others. And that led me into the aromatherapy, because using essential oils with massage is like pretty fabulous, and it's a great way to use them. So I guess eventually, you know, people were having websites, and I decided to have one too. So astrology and essential oils, astral essence, yes.
Okay. Well, you've also, do you have your own blends? Is that what that is, astral essence?
Well, I do a lot of blending, yeah. I do all kinds of blending. I do blending for individual situations, and I also have blends that are good for cleaning and also helping, similar to what you were talking about. It's a wonderful thing to be able to use essential oils to change vibration. And of course, you know, if you go way back into the history, these substances were always used for spiritual purposes. You know, this was, you know, we know frankincense and sandalwood in these cultures. So it isn't a surprise, or it shouldn't be a surprise to us, that we can use them in that way. And they do affect on all the levels, the body, the mind, and the spirit and soul. So yeah, I am thrilled to be able to provide those.
Well, terrific. Well, now let's discuss the astrology, because there you have a newsletter on your website, and I'm sure people can also subscribe to that. If they wanted to subscribe, how would they subscribe?
Well, you can go to astrolessence.com, and you can send me, contact me through there, and I will put you on the newsletter list. And that's Shellie, S-H-E-L-L-I-E, at astrolessence.com. That's the actual email. But I'd love for you to see the website too. The newsletter comes out every month, and it's free. And what I like to do is I love to give out information. I think you called me a great networker or something when we were talking on the Blog Talk show, and I was like, I guess maybe I am, because I love to give links to other resources. One of the things I love about Charlotte's approach here, and I said this also, is that there are many people out there who are giving out fantastic information right now. Stuff that you could really get a lot of peace and good information from, and I like to provide that. It's not just my point of view that's coming at you, and I'm happy about that. So I hope you'll sign up. It's free, like I said, free. You don't even have to read it. I don't even make you read it. I'd like it if you did.
So they don't have to write a dissertation afterwards.
Okay.
So
No
that's,
quiz.
you can relax now.
Just my friends, I quiz them.
Well, now, astrologically, there's obviously some major shifts happening on our planet.
Yeah.
So what does Shellie have to say about that?
Okay, here's what Shellie has to say. First of all, I don't know, for some reason Shellie wants to say that, they were telling us a long time ago that this was going to happen. Some of us, some people are nodding their heads. And back in the 70s, where I first came into contact with some of the unusual points of view that I have found myself moving more and more toward, they told us, and I didn't know anything about Mayan calendars back then. But
Shellie, let me just break in there. When you say they told us, who is they?
Oh, well, okay, that's a good point. People that I met who had heard this through, well, there were a lot of teachers back then. There's always been these people walking with the light in front of them, and saying, guess what? Here's where we're headed. This is what's happening. And some of them were in a school of actualism, which was a light work school that I went to in New York City. Some of them came through the Alice Bailey, Lucius Trust. Some of you are familiar with that. I still think the Great Invocation, if you're familiar with that, is one of the most powerful clearings and blessings that you can do. And you can find that at Lucius, L-U-C-I-S, trust.org, I believe it is. So there were a lot of people in my realm, in New York City. New York City was, just behind California. And this is, and that was just behind, was like 5 years at that point. The internet has changed all that, but we used to get it all from California and then spread it out.
Okay, so what were they saying?
So they were saying that, there was, the children of the 60s, I believe, were really the consciousness groundbreaking generation. And I mean not the ones that were born in the 60s, but the ones that were out there singing the songs and, doing the demonstrations and really cracking the cosmic egg for a lot of minds. Okay, and we had people like Ram Dass, which was an American man who had been a psychologist, who were writing books like Be Here Now. And I think they were all suggesting, they were bringing in the Eastern philosophies, indigenous cultures, which we as Western mind were not resonating with at that point in time, have always known about cycles. And the fact that we were going through cycles and we were coming to a certain point in the not too distant future where our Earth was going to go through changes. And these changes had already been experienced on this planet. I think when you brought Greg Braden last year, he showed pictures of civilizations that were lost, and they predated They found the archaeological ruins, that's the pictures. They predated what we normally think of as history, or the history of human beings on the planet. So, you know, we get to understand that we really don't know. You know, we really think we know, but we really don't know. And this stream of moving towards these changes was also doing something else. And I mean, I think the word evolution is the most important word I could mention today, in a certain sense. Evolution didn't stop. You know, we have that sense or notion that it stopped, and here we are. We're in, you know.
It's perfect now.
It's all fine. But it really isn't finished. We're not finished. Okay, so the planet is going to go through some more changes, and so are we. And the timeline of change was also seen, and sometimes incorrectly, because that's one thing about channeling, and people who do psychic channeling and stuff, and they'll tell you this. They will tell you this. They can tell you May, but they might not get the year right. Okay, they'll tell you this themselves. Their clock isn't quite as good. But we have other clocks. We have astrology. That's a big clock. What the planets are doing, how they're moving with each other. That is like looking at a clock. And we also had the Mayans give us a stepstone pyramid, which was a clock. And some very, very intricate calculations on that clock. The astrology and the Mayan calendar information dovetails perfectly. It better. I mean, if you're using any of these methods, and if it's truth coming at you, it better be truth, or it better be agreed all across the board. Otherwise, somebody's, what happened? You know, I mean, if you go to an astrologer and then somebody reads your cards and they say something completely different to you, something's off here. They should be agreeing. You should keep getting the same validation, right? So we were getting the same validation over and over and over again, that we were coming to a certain place in time. And we all bought our ticket, you know. Some of us who happen to be leaving the planet now, as we mentioned some people who are leaving, they bought the ticket to go up to this point, and now they're going to go on to another dimension. We are focused in a certain dimension here, and that's another thing that's important to know. We're in third dimensional awareness. Tolo was speaking about this last week. We think this is all there is unless we've had experiences to show us that that's not true. We've got science showing us that that's not true now. But right now we think that. So when people are not choosing to go on in third dimension, that doesn't mean they're not going on and that they don't have something else to do for us or with us, right? So the astrology that's taking place right now, I mean, there's never a day that the same astrology has ever been happening. Okay? It's impossible. And there's never been a time when our planet has been in the same place. Because it's like one of my friends said to me recently, you know, we're not going around in circles. We're going around in spirals. So even in our relationship, as we move through space, and our particular solar system also orbits something else, which is the Pleiades. And the Pleiades holds all of that orbiting the galactic center. Okay? I mean, this is something that the Mayans knew, and they clocked it with their calendar. So when we're moving, this orbit is also going in a spiral, an upward spiral. So we're never in the exact same energetic relationship to anything. I mean, I could never come here and be in the same energetic relationship to this room again. I mean, if we all went out on a break and we came back, somebody would have moved, you know, somebody's body would have moved a little bit, or something would have happened to change it, all right? And the reason I think that I want to keep saying this to you is that the change has always been taking place. We have always been moving down the river. We've always been going towards where we are now, right? So the astrology is also predictable. We have the ephemeris, which is the location of the planets. So we can look forward in the ephemeris, so we can see what the relationships are going to be. So astrologers have looked forward also to this moment and this amazing configuration that's taking place. Do you want me to tell them the configuration now?
Of course.
All right. I didn't know if you wanted to say
No,
something.
you've got my attention.
Okay. You know, Pluto. Let's talk about Pluto for a minute, because they just found another moon, by the way, the 4th moon of Pluto. And Pluto used to be the furthest out we were in our knowing of our own solar system. All right, so that's why we had, you know, my very educated mother just served us 9 pickles, and Pluto was the pickle that was a planet. And then what happened, I'll tell you what happened, this is an interesting thing. Pluto, god of the underworld, you know, when they name planets, this is extremely important, even though it's not being done by astrologers, it's being done by astronomers who actually argue a lot also over the process of naming objects. But when they give it a name, they bring it forward in consciousness. They bring the whole mythology forward, the whole concept and the attitude forward in consciousness. All right, and that's critical for many reasons. So Pluto used to be our outer planet, and it used to be a planet. Now, the reason that they call it a dwarf now, and they demoted it, is because when they... Pluto doesn't care, though. I'm here to tell you. It could care less, you know. You know, it's still who it is, right? And it's a planet of tremendous transformation. It's that unseen, mysterious power that transforms things. Okay? But irrevocably, it's transformed. Right? Now, just to tell you why it's not a planet anymore, is because when they started going further out with the spacecraft and they started finding more objects, which they found Eris and Sedna and, you know, names that are Hawaiian and etc. But there's a lot more. And then they said, okay, that's enough, we're not going to find any more. Really, of the trans-Plutonian planets. They decided that now we should, you know, demote and go by size. In so doing, they also, because they had a size limit now, they elevated something that used to be an asteroid to a dwarf planet. And this is really important. This is Ceres, C-E-R-E-S. You can read the mythology on Ceres. And Ceres was not a fluffy female. Let's put it that way. She had a daughter, and the daughter was captured by the king of the underworld. Now, we just mentioned the king of the underworld, didn't we? Pluto. All right, but in the mythology, she's kind of upset. Her daughter's lost. Her daughter's gone to Hades. And she tries to get the other gods to hear her. You know, excuse me, my daughter's lost. Hello, I need help. And they're not paying any attention to her. None whatsoever. Do you ever feel that way? I don't know about you, but every now and then, I feel like nobody's actually hearing what I'm saying. And it's something important too, right? So this is now, she's been named and she's come forward as a dwarf planet. So this is going to be more in our conscious awareness, okay? So finally she says, all right, I'm going to do something about this. I got to get their attention. So what she does is she stops the planet from spinning. So there is no more happy growing of food. Are any bells ringing here on this mythology? Yeah. Food stops. Yeah. Okay, food stops. And things are kind of cold and barren. So the other gods say, all right, okay, we hear you now. We have to do something about this. So what they do is they go down, they have a little talk with Pluto. We have to let Persephone, she's got to go back up, be with her mom, you know. The problem is Persephone has eaten of fruit. Does that sound familiar from any other part of our mythologies? She's had a little pomegranate while she was in the underworld. So when you eat there, it's like going into the fairy world too. You're not supposed to eat there. Because if you eat of this, you can never really not be there anymore. Okay? So they cut a deal. And the deal is 6 months she's up here with us, 6 months she's in the underworld. Right? And so we have what? We have months, and some of them are cold and barren and nothing grows. And some of them are fruitful. Right? Now, Ceres, as the goddess of motherhood in the sense of, I'm a serious mama, and I'm going to take care of my child, right, is elevated at the same time as Pluto is demoted. It's very interesting, really. I mean, you just let your mind play with these things, and you'll get all the inner understanding. I don't have to tell you, you've already gotten what I'm talking about, right? Well, Pluto happened to move into the sign of Capricorn. How many Capricorns? Got a Capricorn? Oh, a couple of Capricorns in the house. Okay. Well, Capricorn is the sign of structure. It is the bones in our body. It's what gives us third-dimensional form. Okay? Saturn is its ruler. That's time, the teacher, the karmic master. This is what it also has to do with is tradition. That's a structure. The consensus mind. That's how we decide, yes, this is what we're going to do today. We have this program. It's all very Capricornian to have that. We have an Aquarian taking care of it, so it's going to be fascinating because Aquarius is the antithesis of Capricorn. But, we'll see how it goes. It'll always be an adventure. See, this is the good thing. Keep challenging, right? But it's also, Capricorn is government, because government is the structure, corporations, leaders, and in our lives, authorities, and also our public life, our public image. So, Pluto, the great transformational planet, the transformation that goes on without being seen, but is irrevocable, is in the very structures of our entire experience, right? So that's something to ponder. And while that's happening, and also Pluto is great power and underworld power. So, there's, and they always told us, I told you who they are already. But I didn't tell you who was telling them. That's for you to figure out. They always told us that the bigger the light got, the bigger the dark would get. Because there is a truth. The bigger the front, the bigger the back. We're in that duality consciousness right now. So the more we were progressing towards light and spirit, the more the fear energies would be growing and becoming as tenacious as they could get. So this is also Pluto, great power and underworld power. Okay? It also has something to do with oil and things that we dig out of the earth. Okay, so there's a lot of, you could go on forever with astrology. So while Pluto is busy...
No, you go right ahead.
Oh, okay. I want you to... No. While Pluto is busy doing that, we have this other planet. Well, we have Saturn, which rules Capricorn. Saturn the teacher, Saturn the karmic master. Karma is, what's my mind doing and what's the effect of it? That's my point of view. Like if I keep having problems, it's because I haven't quite gotten the lesson. It's a teacher. I can get a lesson and then my karma's going to change. I think. So, I hope. So, the best thing you can ever do with Saturn, if Saturn is hanging out doing something, is just quickly say, just like you were a good student in school, what do I need to know now? What must I see? The knowing of which will help me through this particular situation, whatever it is. And then open the ears up, because the teacher's going to speak to you in whatever way your teachers speak to you. Literally, you might get an idea in your mind, or you might open a book, However your teacher speaks to you. See a movie, hear a song, an animal. Yeah. So just now, Saturn is exalted, as we call it, in the sign of Libra, which is the scales of justice and balance and truth. All right, so agreements and accountability to our promises. What a concept. How we relate to each other, Libra, relationships of choosing. Choosing. What are we choosing now? This is all what Saturn is in teaching. And they, Saturn and Pluto, are in a conflict relationship. They call it a square in astrology. It sounds like what it is. It's squaring. I square off at somebody. I'm in conflict with them. But the conflict is what brings us to a point of needing a resolution. So there's nothing wrong with this conflict. It's calling for us to look and find the answer and ask the question. Right? So that would be enough. As the Yiddish expression, that would be sufficient. This is something that if you come from New York, you're very familiar with. But no, it isn't sufficient right now. Right now, we also need the planet Uranus, or Uranus, which is the way it gets laughed at. But this planet is also no laughing matter, although it is the great trickster. Coyote medicine comes in through the planet Uranus because you don't know what it's going to do. It's going to change things. And it's going to do it fast, suddenly. But you're not going to be able to necessarily know what it's going to be. All right, so here it comes. It comes into the sign of Aries. Aries, the fire sign of beginning, the adventure, the new. So it also is dancing with Saturn and Pluto in what we call a great T-square. Or if you look at, I look at it this way because Pluto's at the top, so it looks like upside down. But you could look at it this way and see a T. We call it a T-square because there are two planets squaring and two planets opposing each other. And what's opposing each other is the sudden disruption and the Lord of form and structure. So at this moment on our evolutionary cycle, we have the greatest impulse and necessity for change. Now, evolution. I want to just go back there because in our traditions we have stories. We have evolution stories in terms of geophysical. We have Noah, right, in our Western tradition. You know, I was fascinated at one point to discover that Arizona is the name of a goddess. That is the goddess that founded that area after the Great Flood. I always thought it was a Spanish word, and then I found out that it wasn't. She's a goddess. She's Noah of the indigenous people of the Southwest. All right? So yes, there was a great flood, whether they're finding all kinds of places under the water, cities, and things have changed. Atlantis, for instance, maybe one of them. But if we think about those stories, and this is what I really, really want to get across, and in the seminar and the workshop this afternoon, I want to give you some tools to do this that help me. They're not the only tools you can have. These help me. Okay. Noah listened to something, right? I mean, Noah wasn't reading books and efforting and trying to figure out what was going to happen in the future. Noah was visited by a messenger. We're all visited by messengers all the time. Okay? We get messages constantly. They look like thoughts sometimes to us, right? Arizona was the one who got in the boat. She had this thought, maybe a boat is a good idea now. Noah had that thought too. One of the things that we do, I think, and the further we've gotten into the material realms of being focused or stuck into materialism, is that we think we know, or we think we should know, Well, we think we can figure it all out. And I have to tell you, as a Sagittarius, which is about expansive perception, you will never figure it all out. I feel really sad if you think you're going to, because you're going to be disappointed when Uranus comes along and goes, oh, it was this. Really? And I spent all that time. But Uranus is also a joker. I mean, you could laugh at this if you want. You could laugh and say, here's what I can do. I can listen. I can listen. Because I'm being divinely guided and led, just like everybody in the room. If it feels right to me to do something, I argue with it a lot. Please don't think I don't. I argue with things. I don't need that umbrella. Oh yeah. If you listen and you follow, you are always divinely led to the next right thing. You don't have to effort over this. The difference between Noah and the people who didn't survive the flood was one thing. He listened. He tried to tell them also, but you know, prophet in your own town, he tried to say, hey. But the other piece on this is what I said earlier. If people aren't staying, they're not staying, maybe their message was exactly perfect. Okay? So we don't even have to run out and grab people and say, you've got to get off those coastlines now.
So Shellie, where do we have, in your perspective, do we have the power to shift it? Or is that even our role?
Well, I think that, you know, when I hear conscious co-creator, I think, like, I don't know how conscious I am, so I could say, there's a level at which, I mean, truthfully, there's a level at which we're all co-creating all of this. That level, I think, is way beyond where we are aware when we wake up in the morning and look in the mirror. Oh, and we are in our separated self. And I think I'm Shellie, that's why I came today, because I'm supposed to, you know. I really do believe that we're all in this. We all know this. This is one of the reasons why you're going to get your messages, because that level where we are, that connected one mind, is aware of this. Should we change it is another really important question. Should we change it? Now, the fascinating film that's so polarizing with people, and I mentioned this on the radio, the Blog Talk Radio, is Tree of Life is a movie that's out right now. And it starts with a sentence from Job, the book of Job. Job has finally come to question God. Why are all these things happening? I'm a good guy. I do everything right. Why are you doing this to me? And God comes back with an answer. And it's, where were you when I fashioned the heavens and the morning stars sang with each other? Now, when I first looked at that, I thought it was like, where were you? You little pipsqueak. Who are you to question me? But I came to understand, because that movie works on my consciousness. I think it's an amazing film. I recommend it. And I came to understand that what he was actually saying was, where were you? You were there, but what did you look like? What form were you in? But only now are you questioning me. Only now. I mean, what if the gases that were forming our planet said, wait a minute, we don't want to become land masses. Forget the water thing. We want to stay gases. Let's all work hard and concentrate on that. What if the single-cell amoeba life in the waters said, no, nothing but this. I kind of like this. So the question is, I mean, and Eckhart Tolle says this brilliantly in the beginning of A New Earth. He says, you know, life came out of the water onto land. And that's even in the tarot card, the moon, by the way. Those of you who know that. They show you the evolution out of the water. They didn't do that because they looked out there and they said, boy, that looks cool. Let's all manifest ourselves out there on land. They did it out of necessity. Necessity, because the water was drying up in that area. Okay? Evolution is a necessity. What I'm saying right now, when we look at our planetary, Pluto's transformation happens without your awareness and is irrevocable. Just like when the sperm and the egg came together, they had to give up their sperm-egg form in order for that to begin, that process. All those cells you had to give up the water world to be here. Yeah. So should we interfere? That is my great dilemma or conscious question that I'm asking myself. Or should I learn how to go with the flow, which I think was one of the great things that came out of the 60s. I don't know who first said that one. Does anybody know? But go with the flow was the truest truth. That goes back to our Taoist masters. I mean, that was it. Should we learn how, and should we open up for the messages? If they're threatening our vitamins, should we say, okay, what do I need to learn now? What do I need to evolve? If I can't get vitamins anymore, how should I approach health? Is there another way? Am I being forced? Is there a necessity now that's going to force me to go to another level of consciousness? Because while the Mayan calendar shows us the geological progressions, it also shows the evolution of consciousness. And as we get to the top, we're on the 9th step of the 9 steps. People here were saying, boy, did we feel something this week going on? Wow, didn't you feel it? Okay, each of those steps has segments. We're in the Uranian segment, the 5th day we went into. It's a blossoming of the evolution. It's a blossoming of the direction of that step. Okay? Galactic awareness. Galactic awareness is our 9th step. On the 17th of August, we are going to go into the 5th night. On every step, we have the same segments, okay? The 5th night is going to be a phase of destruction, right? So you will see certain things taking place that are the things that are going to be major harbingers of what the change looks like.
So you're saying, since we have a closing on our house on the 17th, we should probably change it to the 16th?
No, perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
Right at the end of the 5th day, you make a major transformation.
Yes. Wow.
There's an ending. There's a destruction of something. The word destruction sounds so bad to us. Let me give you another little, this is a poem in my next volume. This is about the actual November 1st, or the Hallows Eve. I mean, this is the Celts and other indigenous cultures used to be so aware of the fact that death precedes birth. Mm-hmm. You can't have a next breath unless you exhale. You can't hear me speak unless you let go of the word I just spoke. There is constant destruction for something new. The 6th day is a blossoming again. Right? But this is the major phase. This is if we're on a wave, this is the, okay? This is where we are, August, this month. Could I tell you exactly? No, but I can tell you that if you're reading my newsletter, you'll get all kinds of resources, and you can look, and you can sit, and you can think about them, and you can meditate on them, and you're going to get messages. They'll be yours. You know, not the ones that I'm going to tell you, well, this country is going to have a flood, or this, or this government's going to be overthrown, or you are going to see revolution. It's impossible for us to go through this. They're in the streets of almost every country. Look at the world. That's Uranus in Aries. That's the people saying. Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. That's the golden age of illumination that we're going into. So Uranus going into the sign of beginning is significant. So I wanted to mention those things to you because you can go through this in total fear. I mean, I guess when we were being born, some of us are in the womb going, no. I mean, I think I was because they had to like put me. Really? I mean, I think this is the lesson that I came here to learn, you know? I mean, that's why I'm talking about it, right? So, you know, or we can say, wow, look at this ride. Like every day, we could be prophets of possibility, champions of change.
Yeah.
We could embrace it, we could love it, and love, I think, is, you know, the major key. Facebook is an interesting place because people send you quotes and stuff, you know, and it's wonderful. So Byron Katie quote comes through. Confusion is arguing with what is. Hey. You know, if I just be with what's happening and I open the door to the possibilities, I don't have to go through with fear. I can be loving what is. I can love that this is happening, can't I? Because maybe I'm going to get to the top of that pyramid and that little door with the keyhole in it has wonderful stuff. Maybe I'm fifth dimensional. I don't even need my car. I could have gotten here a lot faster today. Why not?
Why not is right. Well, I'm going to throw in a question. I don't even know if it's a curveball because I bet you have an answer. But what about, as you know, I've been a teacher and student of A Course in Miracles for many years now. And my understanding of the Course and what feels real to me is that this world is an illusion. This is not my home. And that actually, the more I resist what's happening, the more real I make it, so that's keeping me from experiencing my true home, which is heaven. What would you say about is all of this part of the illusion?
I think that summed up everything I said. It was so fast. You know, like I'm looking for the quote that ends all quotes. That's my, you know, that's my quest, right? Because I keep reading quotes on Facebook, right? So that is exactly what we're being asked. You know, we are getting there. I mean, if, you know, there is no time also, according to the Course, and I love the Course.
And Einstein.
Yeah. And that's part of what they say is part of what we're giving up now, is time-based paradigm. We're giving up duality and dominance. So it's really the Course in Miracles, which also came at the same time as I was hearing the Lucius Trust information and everything. That I think is a great thing. If you're not in the Course in Miracles class here, you can contemplate that, see if that feels good to you. That's the message.
That's interesting because, yes, it did, based on what you said, it did come between 65 and 72, 1900s. Yeah,
right.
Wow.
Right.
Interesting.
Yes, yes. Interesting.
Yeah, interesting. So, well, you know, gosh, this conversation could go on for hours. It's been extremely interesting. But I want to offer anyone an opportunity if you have a question. Does anyone have a question for Shellie?
No.
Okay,
Yes.
we've got one. Rocco.
Well, it's based basically on what you just said. And when we talk about acceptance, and what you just said, confusion is arguing with what is. How do we know what is? Because since it's all an illusion, what is just our illusion of what is.
Your experience in any given moment is all you have. You know, so I can't have yours, at least consciously. I mean, I may be having it on that other level, right? So wherever you are in the moment you are, if you're sitting in your garden and you're listening to birds singing, that's your experience of what is. And it is an illusion. We know it's an illusion through science, right? We know that what we're really looking at is swirling atoms, and they're all more space than anything else. And you know, so we really understand that. But I mean, and the other piece about love, okay, is to love that. You know, love your experience in the illusion. You know, celebrate that you have this experience. And that's one of the things with the Course in Miracles. They don't say you can't get away from this illusion by hating it we're trying to kill it. You can only be in it, and love is, love. So we find our obstacles to love. That's what the Course says. We don't learn, nobody teaches us how to love. We find out the things that are in our way. But to me, one of the great things is that acceptance, and particularly of ourself and our experience. And if you're in that space of like, I don't like what's going on now, I just lost my job and I'm sick, and love that feeling that you're having right then. I have this feeling and I love me with it. Yeah? Because it's the only place you are. That's where you are in the illusion. Your point of focus is there. I don't know if that helped or anything, but that's my answer.
Okay, another question.
I was fascinated when you said Sirius was being moved up to a planet and Pluto was being demoted, a dwarf planet. Does that sort of tend that we're going back to a matrilineal society?
No, but I don't think we're going back. I don't think you ever go back. It's like, we're not going back to the 80s economically, and we're not going back to goddess worship. Why should we? That was a level of awareness and consciousness that we had. Why not embrace the fact that the duality is ending? So if the duality is ending and we start having more female names, we didn't have a lot of female names on our planets in Western, right? We had Venus and the Moon, that was about it. Everybody else was a male, right? Because we had, the patriarchal, that definitely happened in a reaction to the matriarchal. I mean, things go in third dimension, we have polarity, duality. So why not see that, yes, the female consciousness is coming up again, which it must do, because the polarity has been too far. And why not see that Sirius is speaking to us very strongly about things that are going on, about our children and about our food. But again, I would say, let's look at the fact that we're shifting paradigms, all right? And that Sirius myth is not the myth that is going to control what's happening now. In other words, we're not going to make a deal with the gods. I don't think. If I'm wrong, I'll be more than happy. I'll make a public statement somewhere in my newsletter.
Yeah, there you go. Well, yes, Jack.
You mentioned that the Sagittarius, they may not understand what's going on, that you feel sorry for them. I didn't quite understand what you said.
Oh, I don't think I said that. I think I said, exactly okay, here's what I said. I'll give you there. If people think they can figure it all out, I feel sorry for them when they find out they didn't, and that I'm speaking as a Sagittarian. We used to have Pluto in Sagittarius. Before it went into Capricorn, we had many years of Pluto in Sag. So we were transforming our perceptions. We were having breakdown of organized religion, but also the opposite side of organized religion became very intense, right? The Sagittarius is the principle of going way up and looking down at everything. But it also understands that the expansion is unending. So we never quite see it all. We can't see it all. It's God sees it all, if you want to use the term God. I don't usually use it because I'm a Course in Miracles student. But that one mind, that divinity, sees it all. We can't. It's just not possible. Did that?
Okay, well, lots of, I know that we've had this, as I mentioned earlier, this could go on, and maybe we will do it again sometime.
This afternoon.
Yeah, this afternoon,
This
and we'll
afternoon
talk
I'm
about
giving
that.
tools.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a minute. But Shellie, thank you. This has been wonderful. I know we all enjoyed it very much. A lot of very, very good information. So
Thank you.
many thanks, and namaste.
I'm very happy.